done now?
Minute 30.
I had to stop her from screaming.
Was the brandy poisoned?
I don't.
Looks like we'll never know.
Unless she dies too.
Open up! It must be the murderer.
Why would he
You
scream?
must have a victim in there. Oh my God, Yvette.
Oh my God! You're alive.
No thanks to you.
What do you mean?
You locked me up with the murder, you idiot.
So the murderer is in this room.
Mais oui.
But where?
Where? Here. We are all looking at them.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Clue the Movie Podcast, where we break down the 1985 cult classic film Clue. 1 minute at a time, that is 60-second intervals. And my name is Brad Gilmore, and I am joined by Jeff Smith. And Jeff,
Hello.
first impressions of minute 30.
It's a nice round number. Yeah, there's our first Back to the Future reference.
Bravo! That was
Okay.
good. That was really
All right.
good. What do y'all
Alright,
think of that,
good.
Cluvians? I'm going to give Jeff his flowers
Yeah.
on that one.
We're getting silly now. It must be late. So this is a good minute because I love that it starts with a slap. That's great. Not that, it's nice to slap Eileen Brennan, but she handles it very well. This is a fun clip to watch because this is when you start to notice when the game piece players are dropping their weapons because they're resetting, as you said last week, except for Mrs. White. She's holding on the rope when she's in the room, but when she runs out, it's back in her hand, or it's out of her hand. This is where Wadsworth reappears. If you remember last minute, he vanished, but he comes running out of the room with him. But when they go to the billiard room, this is where Mrs. Peacock disappears because she is not anywhere in that scene. And the other interesting thing is I'm pretty sure that is Leslie Ann Warren's scream that they hear Yvette do from the other room. I'm pretty sure that's Leslie Ann Warren because she does the scream later in the next minute. We'll hear basically the exact same scream.
Oh, do you think that they liked her scream so much they just
Yeah.
put it in post?
That's my guess.
Or does Colleen
I don't
Camp
know.
not have a
That
good
one I
scream?
can't- I don't know. I bet she does. I've met Colleen Camp. I bet she has a good scream. But sometimes, they get like Michael J. Fox could probably sing, but that's not him on Johnny Be Good.
Right. You just want the.
I just want you to know that. I know a lot about Back to the Future.
I know that you know that, and what's funny is the first time I ever really even heard about anything like that happening, where they dub over an actor, was watching a making of Dr. No, which is the first James Bond movie
Yeah.
with Sean Connery, and they dubbed over Ursula Andress completely, who plays the love interest Honey Rider in the movie. And then I found out they did the same thing to Art Goldfinger in Goldfinger.
Goldfinger, yeah.
So that
And then leaving in Clue.
and then leaving in Clue. So they have a history of doing it in this movie.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah, and Arnold Schwarzenegger in Hercules in New York.
Oh man, I had a buddy.
The list goes on and on.
I had a friend. This was on Twitter recently. Shout out to my friend Stocks, who did a commercial for Samsung in Korea. They flew him out to South Korea. He did this commercial, and then the commercial comes out, and they completely dubbed his voiceover, and it doesn't even look right. It doesn't even look right, and it's so funny. I'm like, wow, they did that for a 15-second social media commercial. Anyway, off topic. I noticed.
What a surprise.
I noticed the characters that were missing, but before we even get there, because I want to talk about what that means for them geographically, where they could have been, what are your hypotheses of such? Mr. Green smacks, boom, big smack to Mrs. Peacock to try to get her under control, and it seems to work. Everyone looks at him like, what the hell did you just do? He's like, well, I had to do something to stop the screaming. A line which will then eventually be repeated and duplicated by Wadsworth at the end of the film, which I actually really want to talk about when we get there because it's an interesting moment that I want to point
I'm
out.
sure we will.
Well,
I have a feeling I know what you're gonna say.
Okay, well, maybe you will.
He
Maybe
wasn't in the room.
Maybe you. Oh,
Yeah. How does he know what he
that's
said?
called foreshadowing.
See you in a couple months.
See it a year, Cluvians. But the thing I wanted to bring up was they were talking about the brandy, and that we need to test. We need to. We'll never know if the brandy was poisoned because it's all on the floor, right? Now, two things to that. Is there not like another? Is the jar? What do you call the liquor jar? What is that called?
The
gimmick.
Not canister, but it's
not cantina.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, it's boy, someone I can hear voices in people's cars right now.
You idiots!
It's
what is it called?
It starts with a C. It starts with a C.
Okay, let me go to Google.
Look it up, please.
What is
yes? So, was that the last of the brandy? I don't think so because then, they have a drink later, but it must be different because why would they go back to that?
Not a flask. What do you call it? Oh my gosh.
Decanter. It's got a C in it. Does not start with C.
A decanter. Was there none left in the decanter? Was my point.
I don't know. They're not thinking straight.
And here's the other thing.
But interesting, that's the first time we see Mr. Green maybe showing his true colors on a tougher guy than we thought he was. He's used to, if he's a FBI guy or dealing with criminals and maybe someone who it has to interrogate, we just caught a glimpse. That's not the only way he could have stopped her from screaming. And also, why did he have to stop her screaming? Let her scream.
Yeah, why'd you have to stop her from screaming?
It wasn't. I think I would just go, put her in the corner.
Yeah. Put her in another room.
Yeah, it's a big mansion. There's lots of rooms upstairs we see in the exterior shots that they never go to. So
maybe that's what she wanted.
And then she was surprised by a slap.
Maybe she wanted to be like, hey, be unconsolable, uncontrollable, and be like, hey, do you need some air? Why don't you go to another room while we figure out what happened here? And then she can get out.
And then they actually do leave her alone.
They do leave her alone.
Right. So she does get what she wants, I suppose. Interesting. And then what's she doing while they're gone all that time?
Right.
Checking on Mr. Body.
Uh-huh.
Well, it depends on the ending.
Well, we'll keep track of Peacock. I want to talk about Peacock, but my last thing on Brandy is Miss Scarlet picks up the glass of brandy to figure out it's been poisoned. I think Colonel Mustard is like, hey, what's going on? And she goes, well, I guess we'll never know. And she pulls it up, turns it upside down. How are they going to test this?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's still some left. Let me go get my
forensic kit out of my
Bunsen beakers. Yeah.
What was she going to do?
Yeah.
They're going to send it off to the lab and wait for it to come back?
Hold on. No, it's fine. Everybody, go ahead and drink it.
And then they said, unless she dies too. And then they all start looking at Mrs. Peacock before the scream.
Waiting for her to die.
One, sick. And two, Mr. Body died very quickly if it was poison. Wouldn't she die quickly if it was poison? I guess poison affects people differently.
Other people were drinking it too, so...
Yeah, so why are they just waiting on her?
Yvette was passing it out. Yeah, why are they just waiting for her? Because she took a big old swig?
They're very interesting questions that aren't really answerable.
No. Looks like we'll never know.
We'll never get to the bottom of it. But the Yvette screams, and this is when they come into the hallway. But as soon as they see him in the hallway, that's where you see Wadsworth.
Wadsworth comes back in the hallway. You see Mrs. Peacock trailing at the end. But when they open the door, she's not there.
She's nowhere to be found. Now,
yeah, and now I can't believe it took me years to not notice Wadsworth left the scene, because especially with Tim Curry, who basically commands every scene he's in, it's very strange that there's in the last minute that we watched, very long exchange where Wadsworth says nothing, and it would be a time where he would speak up, and somehow a lot of us never noticed. And then when he's back now that you know he's gone, it's actually very jarring that he basically takes over the movie again. So, I mean, good job on Jonathan Lynn, who somehow distracted a lot of us into not noticing that Wadsworth is just gone. Because some of the other characters, they're in scenes, but they don't say anything. But Wadsworth always talks.
Always.
Always.
So he just shows back up, and I guess because of all the consternation and confusion from the other party goers, they don't notice that he's gone for a moment in time while they're evaluating the liveliness or lack thereof of Mr. Body. And then Yvette is there, and Yvette's the one screaming. Open the door to the billiard room, and Yvette is screaming, and they're saying, "What's going on? Why are you screaming? What's the deal?" Because of the mother. I'm not going to do Yvette.
With the mother, you idiot.
You idiot.
That sounded like Schwarzenegger. Yeah.
You idiot. You're stupid.
I'm with the idiot. You are looking at him.
Put the cookie down. And she said she's with the killer, and they're like, "Who? Where?
Yeah.
Where? In here." And
Mr. Green looks behind the door.
And Mr. Green looks behind the door. That's what I wrote down. It's like great little comic beat there.
Wouldn't it be hilarious though if he opened, like, you look behind the door and there's just some random guy standing there, like, "Oh, you got me. It was me. It was me. The lights went out. I snuck in. I came back in here. I spooked Yvette, and then I jumped behind the door."
Now, we pointed out that Mrs. Peacock's trailing behind. And before I get to that, I guess, Yvette. So she was just screaming because she heard the murder? Is what we're...
Well, that's what she says. Obviously, she's causing a distraction. Every ending, Yvette's a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
So she's definitely, one, creating confusion, and two, basically getting people away from Mr. Body, because she knows Mr. Body is alive as well. Or she wanted to go in another ending, she wanted to go check and see if he was really dead. So she had to get everybody out of the room for Mr. Body to escape if he's alive, I guess.
So aside from that ending, let's look at two other scenarios. Or I have a question for you. Do you think that she was distracting in aid of whom? Was she distracting for Wadsworth so that he could kind of rejoin the group in the hallway, so there's not a lot of wonder where he is, so they all look like they're still together? Or do you think that she was distracting for Mrs. Peacock, bring everybody but her into the billiard room so that she can go off and, murder the cook or whatever she needed to do? Which one do you think is more likely?
Say yes to all those, because the only reason the only reason Wadsworth leaves is if he's a killer in the ending that doesn't happen. The fourth ending that didn't make it. So in all other continuity, I assume what the intention is Wadsworth is in the room. You just never see him. But I don't know what his plan was without Yvette screaming for him to get back in. Because he went through a painting. He went through a giant painting on the wall to go to the kitchen to kill the cook. Which I guess that's what Mrs. Peacock was doing when she trailed behind.
Mm-hmm.
So Yvette screaming was so they could get out, and Yvette or Mrs. Peacock could go to the kitchen and kill her cook, who I guess now has finally realized that was her cook, even though it was blocked, as we love bringing up as often as possible.
Yes.
On the
Great
podcast.
Great camera blocking. Then there's my thing about the camera blocking, to bring it up one more time. I just wondered how many people were like, "Oh, y'all are just seeing that, but really never saw it." What do you think? Do you think the Cluvians out there, do you think some of them are lying to kick it?
That they saw it before, that they think we're lame because
I would like to believe that without you and I, no one would have ever figured this out.
I think that's true.
I think it's true.
I don't like to call myself a hero too often, but when it's deserved, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody saw it. I think
it's just us.
We're champions. Hey, we were talking about wrestling last episode, and I was thinking about this in traffic today. A lot of the male characters in Clue would be excellent pro wrestling managers.
Yes.
Who, if you were the wrestler, which, because all the females I think could be wrestlers themselves.
100%.
Like Yvette would be a great wrestler, Miss Scarlet would be a great, Mrs. White would be an excellent wrestler. But if you had to pick one of the males to be your manager, which one would you pick?
If I had to
who
pick,
would you compare them to in like WWE kind of world? Like who's Mr. Fuji? Who's Bobby the Brain?
this is a great conversation. I'm going to say that just for his debonair dress and his fantastic orating ability and his Britishness, which is going to get under people's skin automatically, I think that Wadsworth would be the best heel manager of the clan, of the group.
He'd be smug about it.
He'd be smug. Something
And he'd
about,
come out and he would like clean up the area for the wrestler, like, you know, make sure like dust off if the other guy touched him, like, oh, he spilled the
and I would
butler.
I would compare him to a guy named, when he was there was a period of time where this guy was the quote unquote commissioner of the WWF at the time. And that would be Lord Steven Regal or William Regal. Now, if you ever go look this up, 100% nailed it. Now, Professor Plum would be my runner-up. I think Plum would be great because we know he's boisterous. He's big. In wrestling, you got to be big.
Yeah.
You got to have like this, oh my, great Scott. You got to have the great Scottiness that is Professor Plum, a.k.a. Christopher Lloyd. So I like him as a manager. I would say the worst of the bunch would be Colonel Mustard, just for the intellect.
Yeah.
A manager's got to be outsmart the good guy. And he's not outsmarting anybody.
No. But the motorist would also be a good name for a jobber.
Yes. Yeah. It's
I can see the motorist because, I'm here, like my car broke down, and then he dies. Like he gets pinned in like 5 minutes.
Oh my
Or the
God.
singing telegram girl.
Now the singing telegram girl does get jobbed out in this movie. I mean, that happens.
Big time.
She gets jobbed out in this
But
movie.
Yvette would also, I think Yvette would also be a good manager too, because she would kind of be like the Miss Elizabeth.
I would think that she would be a distractor.
She'd be very distracted.
She would be a distractor.
Oh no, don't look over here.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I think that Miss Scarlet would be the best wrestler out of all of them. Like guys, girls included, she would be the best of the bunch when it comes to this.
She'd be the technician. They always would say like in old school wrestling, like, oh, he's a like who were the wrestlers back in the 80s that were the master technicians? They'd always go, oh, so precise.
Well, yeah, I mean, the guy he's not really.
I think Macho Man, they used to say that about.
Macho Man's technician, Ricky the Dragon.
Technician,
Steamboat.
that's it, yeah.
Yeah, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was one. Now I would actually be remiss to say I guess the Cook would technically be the best wrestler of them all, right?
Yeah, she's kind of like who is it? Glow, Mount Fuji.
Mount Fuji, or Machu Picchu. What was it called? I think Mount Fuji.
Oh,
I think it's Mount Fuji. I think you're right.
I think Glow's on the special interest list of documentaries.
Now I'll be honest with you. Well. If there's anything that's ever been a special interest, it's Glow. Glow is
Glow.
That is a special interest.
Oh,
right there.
I remember growing up with Glow, and I probably could still do the theme song from that they used to have their rap.
Their rap
at the
theme
beginning
song.
of each episode. Yeah.
Did you like the Netflix Glow?
I didn't watch it
Oh,
actually.
I think you would like
I
it.
should. Yeah, I'm interested in it. It wasn't because I chose not to. It's just I never got to it, but I should.
Yeah. So that's an
I
interesting
think
question.
I watched Glow until my parents figured out that we were watching Glow, and they saw The Farmer's Daughter, and that was it for Glow.
Putting the kibosh on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Anyway, that was a little tangent about wrestling that I was thinking about today. That so many of their characters are such they are kind of over the top, and it's the professor, the FBI guy, the butler, the colonel. They all sound like they would be. But then I thought at first I was thinking of them as wrestlers. I thought no, they'd all be terrible, but they'd be at least the males, but they'd be very good managers.
Yeah. They would be great managers. I like that, man. Well, we've kind of gone through the hypothesis of Yvette. We figured out that they cannot test the brandy because they have no testing equipment, so it would have been gone use. We remember the word decanter, and we picked out when
Yeah.
the people were there and were not there. I don't know
Yeah.
if we have anything else in this minute.
This was number 30.
Number 30. I mean, just
Yeah.
round of applause for us for making it this far, for getting it to 30. It means officially, guys, to either your delight or dismay, we have 67 more of these things to
Yeah,
do.
we're in Act 2 for sure now.
We're fully in Act 2.
We're in Fun and Games.
We're about to do some fun and games here and be back with minute 31 of Clue the Movie Podcast. That's Jeff Smith at Jeff C. Smith on Twitter, cluedoc.com. You can go there. You can go to Amazon, type it in. Who Done It? The Clue documentary.
You can.
Find me at theboatbradgilmore.com, at Brad Gilmore on all socials. Check out all the other pods and the casts and the shows that
Yeah,
I
if this wrestling interests you, then
There's a couple
you're
things that you can
you're
go.
for a treat. Yeah.
Yeah, you're in for a delight, for a caramel delight, a Turkish delight. How about that?
It's very nice. Yeah.
Lion Witch in the Wardrobe, baby. I was hoping you'd pick up on what I was putting down.
Gotcha.
That's all for minute 30. The Clue Movie Podcast. We'll be back next week for minute 31.
Hurry up, tape running out.